Shri Varun Agarwal graduated from the prestigious Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, India, obtaining his BTech in aerospace engineering in 1999. He worked on a project of solar powered aircraft and was ranked first in his entire department. However, his longing for something deeper about life, which always bothered him, finally culminated in meeting Dr. T.D. Singh, the founder director of the Bhaktivedanta Institute. Guidance, he began studying ancient Vedantic wisdom,
Well done.
dedicating himself completely for the cause of helping humanity. He is currently serving as the director of the Bhaktivedanta Institute, Kolkata, India. Besides his various involvement, he frequently travels across India and abroad and interacts with scientists and scholars all over the world. He is also the editor of Bhaktivedanta Institute reputed journal, Savikyano. So, with this short introduction, I'd like to invite Shri Varun Agarwal ji to present his talk today. Sir.
Okay, thank you, Dipankar. So happy to be here, and we had a very good speakers. I think last 5 6 days, uh, a lot of good wisdom flowing from all over the world. And today also we had a very good history of string theory in the morning. So and tomorrow we'll have our dedicated day tomorrow for the universe in the light of our ancient Indian systems knowledge. So a lot of good scholars are will be speaking tomorrow. Professor Maranjan Sinha and Shriram and Professor Iyengar, I think. So from me today, it will be a very simple presentation. We are with just a very small, simple ideas to share. So let's see. Okay. So we are celebrating this 50 years of our institute, and so these are lectures are part of this celebrations. We started in 24, 3 years we are celebrating. So 24 we started, and we started with a lecture by Phillips, who gave very nice lecture on science and spirituality. And then we had summer school on origin of information. And then we had a couple of more lectures by Vineland, Baldell. And then we had a conference, Science Special Quest, where our Genzel, who is also a cosmologist from Germany, he also gave a very good lecture that time. And then we had a conference on consciousness and 24. And then last year we had a 1 week dedicated on quantum foundations. Very renowned scholars around the world, they poured out their thoughts. And Anthony Liggett, who is no more now, he actually gave a lecture in the event. So it was a combination of physical and online. So back to our topic today. My topic. So basic idea is this. This is the summary that will small introduction, and then we'll look at little bit into foundational questions in cosmology, and then just a brief idea of some of the cosmologists. So when I'm using cosmologist means astrophysicist also, astronomer also, because title becomes too long. And then what is the issue or incompleteness of our current story of universe? What we have is a very good story, but still looks incomplete. And then some ideas for our IKEA from Indian knowledge systems, our universe in the light of Indian knowledge system. This is a rough idea we'll be traversing in this presentation. So first, so of course, cosmology has been exciting, and our David Dilworth was giving amazing, exciting things, and also previous speakers too. They showed us various pictures, and these days we are getting every day new pictures from James and from around so many. So it's becoming more and more exciting, surely. And and of course, the numbers are very exciting because the stars in the these stars only in the observable universe, which we can observe theoretically. So it is like you can see the big number, 10 to the power 24, and then the numbers really are in cosmology are beyond the human imagination. So we have trillion galaxies, Even our one galaxy, we difficult to cross over Milky Way, and we have 2 trillion roughly galaxies, and they are increasing. They are daily as more we are researching and more exploring, and we are, as one of the speaker was telling, when he started working in cosmology, it was only million. Today we have trillion. So, and then, and our the distances, they are also very amazing. So cosmology is really very mind-boggling all the time, and I hope that it will remain always amazing. And so these are numbers are really bigger than the human imagination. And of course, besides out there are also very amazing concepts in cosmology which we have been hearing. Black holes, we people have scholars have really worked hard on that. The dark matter, dark energy, and there are many universes and then many dimensions today morning. So string theory. So these are concepts which really open up our mind. So amazing ideas and amazing field. This is really. So it is really exciting, and my guess is that it will remain excited as long as humanity is there, because its depths may not be so easy to fathom completely. So some of the foundational questions in cosmology, just to have a quick look that these are very deep questions and they influence whatever we are doing in this area. So I have listed some 15, 20 of them. So first, of course, why this universe at all? The like Wigner said, means for unreasonable mathematics, unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics means we deserve or we, the gift of universe means why this universe at all actually we have, and why this universe, how this started. There's a question. Many theories, some of we have prominent Big Bang model, but then the others, plasma and others, scholars presented. And then how the universe will end. We have some theories, but question. And what is our role in this universe? Of course, besides my degrees and jobs, do I have really role beyond in this universe? And then can we ever have hope to understand the structure of this universe completely? So that's also interesting thing that can we fully understand the structure of this completely, quote unquote. So is there intelligence behind this cosmos? So that's a question. Some say for and some say for oppose. And is universe only physical? That is one of the question I will explore in this presentation, I think. And is there a mind in this universe like we all do have? That is also a question which we will touch upon in this. And then, does consciousness has any role in the structure and formation of galaxies, or is just a mechanical process, mechanistic process? Can we ever hope to understand the universe completely, of which we are part of? Because we ourselves are part, so is it possible really to understand fully? Are there other universes? So this is a question. Multiverse is a great proposal, and there are a lot of logic, but it's still like string theory, it still has a no experimental verification. And how many dimensions space has finally? So we have a lot of proposals from 3 to 4, from Newton to Einstein, and then 5, 6, 8, 11, 10, 11. So finally, how many dimensions space has? This is one of the important questions, because all your theories depend finally on the definition of space which you assume to begin with. So, and then can we ever fully understand the space? This is another deeper question, fully in quote unquote. And then what is time really? That is another big question, because time, you can change your watch, but you cannot stop time. Time is really, nobody can stop here in this existence, because whatever clocks change, everything you can change, but it will move on. Time will move on. So what is time really is a big debatable question, and so many events every day happen around the world on this. And are there absolute space, absolute time beyond this universe, as some people propose? So these are some of the foundational questions, and they occupy us. I will not be covering, just one or two I will be touching on them. So before that, let me get into some of the cosmologists, astrophysicists, astronomers. Many of I have not put all of them, couple of them, just to have show some of the ideas which are some of the things which are lesser known in public, general things. People, it is very famous. Kepler, we know, he gave Kepler's laws, and then Temple, then Whitaker. Interesting is that Whitaker, one of the British physicists, he wrote a book called Space and Spirit. Very interesting title. And then, of course, Lemaitre is the Belgian astronomer priest who postulated an expanding universe. And then these two I have made different color, Eddington and James Jeans, Arthur Eddington, James Jeans. I will touching upon them a little bit upon theme. Of course, Fred Hoyle, he worked a lot on this. And of course, in recent times, Barrow and Harrison and Burnell. Burnell is still there. And then so our India, Subramaniam Chandrasekhar, and also Narlikar. Many are there, just not have to lift. So so some of them, why I'm listing some of them is very interesting that they wrote books which are lesser known. For example, this Eddington, he wrote a book called The Nature of Physical World. And this book is very amazing. In the beginning, it goes into cosmology and then implications of it. So I recommend that those who are seriously interested to read all of these books. This is a small request to all of you because that will very deep insight they have put. And the second book is The Mysterious Universe by James Jeans. And then, of course, Carl Sagan is popular, and we know him. And then Gingerich, and then Narlikar. This book is Jan Narlikar from India, famous cosmologist. His book is lesser known. The Indian Scientist from Vedic to Modern Times. So the Scientific Age is the book name. And then Fred Hoyle, The Intelligent Universe. And then this is another book by Eddington, Science and the Unseen World. And then our Chandrasekhar, Truth and Beauty. So these, how this exploration into cosmos led them to deeper aspects of life to ponder upon. That will be very interesting to go through some of these books. So I'll touch upon few ideas from them, and then we'll move into the some of the challenges. So this is James Jean, and you might have studied during your studies Rayleigh-Jean's law, or he comes in many names. He comes in many forms in our stellar dynamics and many areas of space. Jean's instability, Jean's length, you might have come across. So from this book, the universe looks like more and more like a great thought rather than a great machine. So James Jeans, very renowned personality. Actually, he worked a lot. Earlier, he was working in the subatomic world, and then he moved to cosmology, and then started working in stars, how the formation of stars. So when he went deep inside, then he came to this. And what is the basic idea? He presented very simple, but one has to go into it deeply to understand. Idea was very simple that we use mathematics to describe universe, right? So from Einstein relativity, which uses tensors, to string theory, which uses Kac-Moore algebras, all those. So we use mathematics to describe universe, and mathematics has a very deep connection with mind. So mind, because there are things in mathematics which have no counterpart. For example, Heisenberg gave example infinity or imaginary numbers, for example. So we don't have any counterpart of imaginary numbers in the physical world or infinity. So mathematics has a deep, rather they say that mathematics is more a mental construct. So since universe is defined in terms of mathematical equations and mathematics has a deep connection with mind, so that's why James said that universe is actually rooted in mind. Very simple way presenting, but it goes very deep. The Eddington, interestingly, we all know Einstein, but you know that Einstein gave a theoretical framework of GTR, general relativity. He gave equations, used mathematics, but the first person who verified experimentally is this Arthur Eddington. In 1999, they went for a solar eclipse in Brazil, I think, and they verified that the theory what Einstein predicted was good. So Eddington did a lot of work. He was very much interested in stars. What are these stars? And he gave a lot of models to calculate the density, temperature inside the stars. And so he actually inspired a lot of. So he wrote a couple of very good books. The two I showed you, Science and Unseen World and Nature of Physical World. Another is New Pathways in Science. So if you go through them, then it will be very interesting and inspiring. Let me give you a glimpse of his idea, just a very short idea. I was going through, these are not his words, but this is what you will find there. I'm putting, so just lack of time, I have put in my word, but you will get exactly same thing, ideas there. So Eddington was saying that this is my language, but idea of Eddington that one may say that I'm just atoms and molecules or dust like in the stars, but one thing which makes me different from all the objects around me is that I'm curious. So this curiosity, so but from where this curiosity is coming from, that's a question mark. So why I want to know or explore stars and galaxy out there? Why not this table and chairs around me are curious? Where this quality of being curious is rooted in me. So Eddington, he put a very good question that definitely there's some difference out there me in me. And then of course symbols and meanings means he now we have from his time to now we have done a lot of further progress, but same question still remains. And he used that same question like we talk in consciousness studies. He talked that in the terms of observational cosmology that okay, the rays and the infrared rays comes from the stars, enter my equipment, telescope, and then go to my eyes and then to brain, and finally, where do I start discerning meaning of it? Right? Where this meaning, the understanding point starts. So he's asking about the observation, where it converts to understanding about that in me, where this chain of communication of symbols finally ends and leads to the meaning. And who is giving meaning to this? And of course, in later he says that, and after all these observations and making a theory and getting successful, finally, who is that one who feels happiness? And of course, since I don't know how I am there in this cage of brain and symbols, but then there must be something more beyond me. So that beyond me is a higher thing. And even he goes further that this physical realm which we are exploring, this is very close to our ancient wisdom that the physical realm which we are exploring, actually this is beneath that there is a mental and spiritual realm behind. So and also he says very interesting point that we should remember that whatever we are doing using inference in modern cosmology is good and very good. You cannot go out to the stars and the different galaxies, but mostly you are using inference. But remember that before inference, you have something which you have direct experience, which is mind. Mind is the first and most direct thing in our experience. All else is remote inference. So I'll skip this and then Gingrich. Gingrich is he was astronomer. He recently passed away. We had a good relationship with him, our institute. He was from Harvard, and we used to visit him, meet him many times, and a lot of discussion. This is the book he gifted us, God's Universe, and he very openly. He was actually earlier working in the history of science, and then he also got into this astronomy, and he established himself very, if you Google it, you will know Gingrich very well established that there's a Harvard observatory. He was in there. So just I believe that the book of scripture illuminate the pathway to God. So I believe that the book of nature, which is its astonishing details, the blade of grass, the conus or the resonance levels of carbon atom, also says a God of purpose and a God of design. And I think my belief makes me no less a scientist. So this is. And another man we had, another scholar which we had very close relationship is Alexander Wellington. He's in Tufts University. He's very old now. Actually, he was also supposed to give lecture here, and then because he's very old and health is not very good, uh, so he could not do that. So his idea was very simple. He This is a book, Many Worlds in One. Many years ago, he gifted us this book, and when we met him first time, he expressed that well, I have a lot of ideas which are very close to your Indian ancient spiritual traditions. So his idea was very simple that the universe starts and expands, and then from we have a lot of universes, but starting and then expanding, and then again the small universe comes out from there, kind of. And then he use say he expresses that some kind of quantum tunneling happens. But the point he was making was that, like, you will get out here is this: the entire internally inflating space-time originated as a minuscule closed universe. It tunneled quantum mechanically out of nothing and immediately plunged into never-ending fury of inflation. Thus, the universe is eternal, but it did have a beginning. Means from one universe and then another, like this. But the question here is, the tunneling process is governed by the same fundamental laws that describe the subsequent evolution of the universe. It follows that the laws should be there even prior to the universe itself. Means, does this mean that the laws are not mere descriptions of reality and can have an independent existence of their own? And especially when in the absence of space, time and matter, then which tablets only they could be written upon. The laws are expressed in form of mathematical equations. If the medium of mathematics is mind, does this mean that the mind should predate the universe? So very, very logical, profound conclusion. These scholars, when they go deep, they come to this point that if laws are there before and the same laws are continuing, then and we know the laws are written in mathematical language, that and mathematics has close connection with mind. So does that mean that there's a mind which predate the universe? And this is our Indian famous cosmologist J.N. Narlikar, from his lesser known book, The Science Age, the Indian scientist from Vedic to modern times. I request that we should go through this book, and he expresses many interesting things in this book. Most science religions are guided by man's search for truth, and the questions related to the working of human mind, its feelings, emotions, and the urge to know: why is the man created? Why are so many living species of different sorts in existence? What is the purpose of this creation? Why are there laws of science in the first place? Why do the laws discovered by man on this tiny earth seem to work on much grander scales of stars and galaxies? So these are important questions. These questions of our cosmic truth seem beyond the scope of our current science, and this is where religion steps in. So these are some, just to give you idea that these interesting scholars, so that you can explore yourself more and more. Uh, Let me go to the, so our current story of universe. What are the issues, the incompleteness where we face in this? Let me share with you. So there are 10 issues I am listed here. Quantum gravity means we try to bring together quantum mechanics and GTR, the whatever we have, general theory relativity, and but there are foundation issues in quantum mechanics. So we'll very briefly look into then origin and completeness of laws. So these are the question whether laws which we have, as we discussed earlier, are they, what is the origin, and also whether they are complete, means sufficient enough, what the laws we have discovered. Then incompleteness of mathematics itself, because we'll discuss little bit. And then where do new ideas comes from if the universe is only physical? How come we have fine-tuning order in the universe? You have heard a lot yesterday about it, so I will not go in detail about that fine-tuning aspect. Incompleteness of concepts in physics is a critical deep aspect which Heisenberg had mentioned, and which has deep implications. So can we build a picture of universe without including our own experience? Very important, because we have experience. The content may vary, but the experience is truth. So we have all experience. So can we build a picture of universe without including experience in that? That's the question. And of course, can we afford a meaningless life? Can we account for issues of morality and responsibility with the current picture of universe? That is, which is very important for any humanity to live on. And then, of course, you can even go to the climate and environmental issues. Can we ignore mind as in the current picture of cosmology and still hope for a sustainable future of our planet? So I'll briefly explain what do I mean by all these things, and not all, but some of those. So foundation in quantum mechanics is basically there are five major issues: the wave nature of matter, non-locality, measurement problem, uncertainty, and meaning of wave function. I will not be covering all, just briefly mentioning two of them. One is non-locality, another is measurement problem, these two. Non-locality, as we know, entanglement means different names are there. Action at a distance, spooky action at distance, Einstein called. So two particles at very far away, one here, one at the moon. So they you change the state of one particle, the state of other particle changes, and that entanglement and speed of light, it cannot happen like that. It requires minimum time for here to go to moon, right? So or any space, very distant space. So but it happens instantaneously. So how that happens is a mystery actually. And this was not believed. Then experiments were performed again and again, and then there was a question whether experiment had loopholes. Then now recently, the very good experiment was performed in last 20 years, 30 years or so, and then Alan Aspect and all, they got Nobel Prize a couple of years ago, and then it is very clear. And now not only we are clear, we are using this property to for make quantum computers. So though we don't understand how it is happening, we are using and encashing upon this property, and this has a lot of implication, philosophical implication besides technology. The philosophical implications is that whether there is a reality or underlying connection of things beyond the level of beyond space-time fabric. So how things are happening instantaneously, which cannot. So one of the implication is whether is there a connection between there is a fabric of reality beyond below space and time, beneath the space and time fabric, and because of that there is a connection. So what is that fabric then? And then that's why issues of mind, consciousness come into play. But basically, it raises question of non-physical reality fabric. The second is measurement problem, which we know that in a simple language, that how different possibilities are reduced to one. So that by the observation or by the measurement. So to put it in a simple language, imagine a boy or you met one scientist, for example, who was 90 years old, and at that time in New York, for example, and then you came to home to India, and then after 10 years you're thinking, I want to meet that scientist, but then immediately question comes whether he is alive or dead. He was already 90 at that time. So when a question comes in your mind, now you have both the possibilities, alive also and dead also. But in physical world, only one possibility can exist. Either he will be alive or dead. So the question is where, so same like this, the cat alive and dead. So question is where these possibilities are existing. If because our brain is in the physical world, and in physical world this possibility cannot exist simultaneously. So then where these possibilities are existing. So this paradox, technically called Schrödinger paradox, also very easy to explain measurement problem. So then it brings the question of mind, and also the question of consciousness, means finally who decides which one is the correct, how you make a decision or like those. So these are some of the things which are foundational issues in quantum physics. And if you want to connect quantum physics with relativity, is not going to easy job, and there this is one of the challenges which comes. That's why the story still looks incomplete. And of course, the second part I was telling you that the mathematics, which is like indispensable to explain universe out there, because we cannot go out to the other galaxies, and there are a lot of limitation of physical experiments. So mathematics is a great tool which we use. But at the same time, in the roots, mathematics has a limitation, like with our Gödel, famous Gödel's incompleteness theorems, 1931, that without mind and consciousness, mathematics is incomplete. Koda himself said that my theorems only show that the mechanization of mathematics, that is the elimination of mind and of abstract entities, is impossible if one wants to have a satisfactory foundation system of mathematics. So when one, that means it brings a fundamental limitation to our model of universe, that the story of universe, whatever you want to say, that definitely it will not be complete or requires more. Eventually, if you want a complete story of universe, it will require perhaps mind consciousness to bring in. And of course, the question of intuition, this has, like, for example, Einstein said that the happiest thought that when he was sitting in the chair and at his patent office in Bern. So Einstein called me that time he realized that if person falls, the first idea of the relativity he got, that if person falls himself, not the ball, so whether he will feel the weight, his own weight. So he will not feel his own weight. From there, he worked for next couple of years, 7 8 years, and so this intuition part, the intuition which is a essential part in our exploration. So how to account for that in our story of universe? So a lot of scientists worked on that. Actually, if you go deeply, Pauli, the physicist, he worked a lot on intuition, and then Poincaré, the French mathematician, he worked a lot, and then Brouwer even developed the field called intuitionism in mathematics, and Gödel made it very clear that without intuition or from without mind, mathematics is actually incomplete. So this intuition is another important area to be entered inside our story. Yeah, our Polly said actually that how to account for the greatest gains of science quite often take place in an unscientific quote unquote manner, via feelings, intuitions, impulses, sudden flash of inspiration, even via dreams and visions. If you see the history of the discoveries either in cosmology or in other sciences, you see that how intuition plays such a profound role, but this is still not part of our equations which we have, or the story which we have. And we did our Jacob put it very strongly, the day science and night science, that logical science of creativity which we show to the public, and night science, the intuition part of creativity which we don't so put inside. So fine tuning order, I think this part already was discussed a lot. I will skip this thing a lot, but just to tell you one interesting aspect, I think our some scholar was mentioning earlier we met, that you see, if you little bit contemplate, it's not a question of any very simple question, that see, we are dependent on sun because you need sun rays for photosynthesis, right? And your all your plants vegetation depends on sunlight. So without that, you cannot expect life here. And now sun is a specific distance from earth, and if that distance is little more or if it is less, there is a problem. If it is more, then you will not have sufficient sunlight. If it is less, then earth will burn away. And not only sun, if you see, the sun itself is at specific distance from other planets, other galaxies. So that if that distance is also not proper, then that also will make the things worst. So idea is that learning gratitude, how we are dependent on entire universe. So when you take an apple which is made from the tree, which is dependent on earth and then on the sun, and then sun is dependent on the all the other bodies in the universe, without proper distances and movements and forces of gravity. So you can imagine that when you eat an apple, actually we should be grateful to the entire universe for, because without that you will not get apple in your hand. And that's why our Fred Hoyle, he wrote a very interesting book, The Intelligent Universe, that if you go deep enough, he was talking about specifically about a carbon atom, because carbon is a very important atom in the universe formation. So a common sense interpretation of the fact says that a super intellect has monkeyed with physics as well as with the chemistry and biology, and that there are no blind forces worth speaking about in nature. So not only the story of universe is as a fundamental this conceptual issues, also it is related to our current things crisis which we are facing, mental health. The one of the biggest challenges, especially in modern times, young generation, the issue of mental health and relationships. Very quickly relationship is making and breaking, and lot of mental health issues, depression, anxiety. So how our story of universe is connected, because if the universe is just the rock and salts and the stones and minerals without any mind, emotion, relationships, then our mind, it leads to a mindset, use fellow beings for your own pleasure and maximize own happiness without caring for others. No gratitude, no compassion. It's just a dead matter. So that breaks down the mind and the relationships. So that story of universe need to include the mind, the so that it improves our mind, improves our relationships. The story is very, very important. And not only that, uh, we recently met a physicist who turned from physics to sustainability into climate change. Also, Stephen Chu, who moved from physics in Stanford, who moved from physics to climate. So people are worried that today climate change is not just that you can manage by by solar power and all, but actually it is rooted in mind change. So the mindset we have. So the picture of universe with the same picture, rocks, salts, and then which leads to picture of earth, which is just rocks and stones. Then what is the mindset? Use and extract minerals, oils for advancement as opposed to respect and use with care as in ancient traditions. Like we used to teach in, especially in India, like Mother Earth, we use, but at the same time we have a lot of respect and care. So not to overuse, misuse the resources. So that mindset is also comes from the story of our universe. So that which leads to the planet crisis which we are facing, ecological crisis, climate crisis. So if you are not careful in using our resources and you are not careful in relationship with the fellow beings, with other species as well as with the planet, then these crises are evident which we are facing today. So this relates to the story of the universe. And of course, the origin and completeness of laws, from where these laws, as I already discussed, from Alexander Wellington, and whether the laws are complete. Like Penrose was saying, that we have consciousness, but still consciousness we don't have in our laws. So that means somewhere something is missing. There is nothing in our physical theory of which the universe is like what the universe is like. Though universe has elements, life, which has consciousness, but our theories still don't have that aspect. So, so these, and then let me share you briefly about the universe, some ideas, insights about the universe in the light of Indian knowledge systems, very shortly. I will cover briefly the nature of universe, the nature of life, the nature of mind, nature of consciousness, nature of concepts in physics, and story of universe in the light of Indian knowledge systems. Very simple way. So, in our Indian knowledge systems, our tradition, the universe is not just the physical universe. Universe is actually there's a physical universe part, there's a psychological universe part, and there's a spiritual universe part. So today, modern cosmology is mostly focused on physical cosmology, the physical universe. So the psychology universe means not only we have our own individual mind, it says there is also an element of mind in the universe. Means like you have this body, the hard touch you can touch and see, and you can touch and see the earth, right, which is part of the universe. Similarly, not only you have mind, different from this physical structure called brain, which you can touch and see, in Sanskrit called mana, there is also mind element in the universe. So, like that, other elements too. Similarly, not only we have consciousness, there is a consciousness at the root fabric of this universe. Like we have consciousness which we decides and take action. So it looks like if you see from the light of IKS, Indian Knowledge System, our current view need to be expanded more. Similarly, the nature of life is not just the physical body which I touch and take care of his nutrition. You also take care of the psychological aspect, the mind, the mental health, which is slowly the awareness is increasing now these days. And then the positivity, the thought process, the peacefulness, the focus, all those aspects. And then it's the consciousness. So if we try to reduce, which has been the case in modern sciences, actually last couple of centuries, try to reduce life to physical structure, the brain, then you get a lot of issues. So the issues are this. The origin of life problem you cannot make from if I give you test tubes, chemicals in the test tubes, and you can make a living cell. We are trying protocell to this cell to that is going on. We had a whole event on the origin of life research a couple of years ago, I think. So that's and then issue conscious, very prominent, free will, the issue of purpose, issue of meaning. How do I meaning? You know that is not on paper. Meaning is somewhere here. The issue of responsibility, if I do some action, who is finally responsible? If these are just carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen atoms, this DNA, who is finally responsible in this body? The issue of intelligence, the issue of understanding, which I briefly mentioned, issue of numbering comes in mathematics, issue of gratitude, compassion, memory. We had a whole event on memory 1 or 2 years ago. Issue of happiness, which I think my colleague Vasudeva Rao covered yesterday. So these issues of life, they are not solvable with the physical definition of life. That if we try to reduce life to just the brain or DNA, it will not work. So that's why more and more scholars these days, either physicists, biology, or psychologists, they are coming with the things that we should get rid of this reductionism ideas which we have been maintaining in modern science from last 4 or 5 centuries. Now it's enough. Like Behe, Age of Evolution, Irreducible is another physicist. Federico Fagin, he is the one who discovered first microprocessor. He is Italian, now in America. We meet him couple of times. Irreducible. You cannot reduce life or mind to matter. And then there is another psychology, irreducible mind. So our proposal is that mind is certainly not a classical object. The brain is a classical object which you can touch and see, but mind is not a classical object. It is more quantum-like object. Regarding the nature of consciousness in our Indian systems is that there are two types of consciousness. Like I am conscious that this event is going on right now, and there's infinite consciousness, which we talk the consciousness at the fundamental root of this universe. And then whole the process goes our relationship between my and that the one who behind this cosmos. Nature of observer, yes, there's a interesting point here that, for example, in the morning, 8 o'clock, you're at the door and you have many possibilities in your mind that I can go to library, I can go to class, I can go to friend or restaurant or cinema. So all these possibilities are simultaneously not possible in the physical world, but they are simultaneous in your mind. So where are these possibilities, first of all? Because physical world, you cannot be at all the places at the same time. So definitely the mind. And then one important point is among all these possibilities coming to your mind, you select one. So the question is that who is selecting among these possibilities in mind, the thoughts? Thought 1, thought 2, thought 3, thought 4, T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, for example. Then, so this is different from India to Western tradition. Western tradition, mind, consciousness, they are all considered same. But our Indian tradition, the person, the being who is selecting among these thoughts is actually above, different from this. So that is called observer. And then behind that, finally, the supreme observer or supreme consciousness. So there is a section called incomplete of scientific concept. Remember, I'm talking about incompleteness, not the correctness. They are correct. The concepts are correct, but they are incomplete when you go deep. For example, Heisenberg mentioned about the position and velocity. That these concepts they work very well in Newton mechanics, but when you bring them, when you entered quantum, you saw that the limitation of these concepts. So they are good in Newton domain, but when we talk the absolute meaning of this position in terms of reality, then you find that these concepts are incomplete. This is what Heisenberg mentioned, one of the very good book, Physics and Philosophy by Heisenberg. So if you go into the idea, basic idea is that if you see from our Indian knowledge system is that force is the concept of force which we are in modern science. We consider force just only physical. You make a 5 Newton force, push a block of mass, right? But actually in IKS, force is not only physical, there is a psychological force and there is a spiritual force. Psychological force means, for example, tomorrow is exam and but your force is you are internally pressure that I should go to movie, very new release movie or something like that. So you have a force. So what is that force? Very subtle force inside which you experience. And then of course the spiritual force, the will or desire to do. So in our system, in our IKS says that the spiritual force about the most important all forces, will is the root cause of our being here. Willing properly in human life can lead to perfection. So this is very critical. So there is a option given in our Indian knowledge system is that proper willing can change your life direction, what you want to achieve in life. So that is why in our first scripture of Vedanta it starts with Athato Brahm Jigyasa. Now in this human life, Your primary duty, other duties you have to do job, career, everything, but primary duty should be to find out the ultimate, the who is behind this cosmos. So that willing, that direction or channelizing our mind is very, very important. That's why I say force is not just physical, psychological, but spiritual. And similarly, all these concepts, if you go deep into the concept like work or velocity or motion, you will come to the same point. So, in our ancient tradition, the story of universe, what is the perspective? The story of the universe which makes you a good human being. Means whatever story of universe you may have, finally it should lead you to make you a good human being. And what is the definition of good human being? Means having good qualities, which we all have some minimum inner sense of good human being. Humility, compassion, gratitude, and gratitude for the universe, gratitude for other beings, even the birds and bees, because of which you cannot have pollination without them, and then without pollination you will not have vegetation, and how will you eat and survive? So those qualities, and then so this could be one of the important test, a final test of a good story, of any story of universe. If we have, irrespective of, you can include from lambda model to plasma to quarks, whatever, an ancient wisdom, but finally the irrespective of so many details you can enter, irrespective of that we can have all this together good. But final test is, as per our ancient tradition, is that whether that story is transforming you towards a good human being. That is the test of that. That is the story of universe which we get hint. There's a quote from Narlikal. I will end in one or two slides. That's all I am done. Cosmology inspires humility. This is a Narlikar that reviewing our present understanding of cosmos, an understanding that has grown considerably over the past few decades, but which cannot be considered anyway complete, of course. The subject of cosmology, which deals with the origin and evolution of the universe, tells us how small man is, how limited his experience on this tiny planet is in comparison with the physical universe that he can observe. What caused the expansion of the universe? How did galaxies come together in their clusters and superclusters? We are understanding better and better, but still, one question you solve, 20 questions new arise. We see the universe bathed in a radiation background of very low temperature. What was its origin due to? These are the questions posed by today's cosmologists. They are different from those asked by scientists of yesterday's, of even 100 years ago, when astronomy hardly reached beyond the confines of Milky Way. Have we reached the end of the quest, or does something lie beyond our galaxy? These questions and the enormity of universe in comparison with the human habitat here on the earth have had an humbling influence on some of the greatest scientific brains of this century. So this is one of the very interesting contribution of modern of cosmology, basically this field, that it really opens your mind at how small we are. Because sometimes after publishing 100 papers in top journals or giving good theories, you forget that we are still very small, very, very small. So I end with a slide. So what our proposal is that in search for a complete story of universe, you not only need modern cosmological data, the theory, the exploration, the telescopes, you also need music, arts, as well as ancient spiritual tradition. The combined together, that you get a complete good story of the universe, where you can make a good human being, not only a good professor. You could not only make a good paper, you not only make a good human being, good professor, good position in university, you can make a good human being, and which will be asset for sustaining this planet for the entire humanity. And there is a quote Heisenberg that if you go deep in sciences, as Heisenberg himself went because of the quantum issues. So it is the end of his book. So there is a concluding remarks that the last slide, that experiments and experience. The experiments are necessary, but they are not sufficient to know reality. If you are really a true seeker of truth and you want to know reality within your lifetime, you cannot say, I will tell you after 1 million years, because that will not work. We have less than 100 years time. So you need to bring in experience too. The physical experiments are thought experiments. Not only physical experiments are important, but we have to bring in. But at the same time, they have limitations, especially more in the field of cosmology. I cannot go to another galaxy and do the experiment. So thought experiments are equally important. They can help you not only for getting the paradox, but also the to advance our conception of reality. And then cosmology for improving mind. This is my request to all the teachers who are teaching cosmological courses or any courses actually, but more cosmology, that besides your regular classes, not only you teach how the clusters are formed, how the Einstein's GTR, the field equations and all, in the last parts of classes, suppose you have 40 classes, in two classes or three classes of your whole course, you teach also how we should relate to universe, learning gratitude from the universe, how much our life has been sustaining by the universe, from vegetation to everything else. So that gratitude, that qualities or our relation with the universe can also be covered in couple of lectures when you teach cosmology. And lastly, that not only bring in anthropic principle and cosmology principle, we also need to bring in consciousness principle in our complete story of universe. So I stop and end here, and thank you for your patience to listening to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really wonderful, very insightful and thought-provoking lecture. Bringing the thoughts and minds of these great scientists and scholars. It was really wonderful to hear that, and also you visited different issues, and how there's a need of new thought and approach. I particularly like the part where you talk about incompleteness. How it is different than not being incorrect. But incomplete. So this is widens up perspective on things. So thank you so much for this. But since we already have some questions, we'd like to start with them. I will read them out to you and then you can respond to them. The first question is from Dr. Bharat Pandey, Government PG College, Ranikhet, Uttarakhand. He says, Sir, if the universe is governed by physical laws yet gives rise to consciousness, could it be that consciousness is not just a byproduct but a fundamental feature of the cosmos, now being extended artificially through AI in today's world? All of things
Yeah,
together.
interesting question. Thank you, Dr. Bharat. Yes, yeah, actually, consciousness is not a byproduct. You see, you take any action. For example, if I want to leave this bottle, so you have a plan. First, you make a plan in your mind, right? And so the consciousness is before it comes to the mind, the planning, and then you take a physical action. Same. Actually, very easy way to study cosmology, as per our ancient tradition, is that you study yourself, and you will find a lot of parallels. So you see that your consciousness is the first, then it comes to the mind, and then it comes to physical action. Same like this in the universe, the consciousness is the root bottom. They must be a will, a conscious action to start the process of matter. Otherwise, like Newton's the law, right? The matter remains at its rest, right? Remains at rest. So from there, then whole the process starts. So consciousness, true, it is at the roots, not at the byproduct. And as far as AI is concerned, of course, AI is nowhere near consciousness. Do not get it. We are definitely using and thankful to AI developments, and they are very useful for many fields of our human work. But AI does not have consciousness, though you Gemini or ChatGPT put thinking, but this is not thinking. Thinking is a conscious act. It is a mechanistic process, very highly advanced process. Okay.
Thank you so much for making that clear. Next question is,
Mm.
Sir, in today's era of rapid technological advancement, are we solving climate change or unknowingly accelerating it? Because our mindset still treats Earth as an object to exploit rather than a relationship to sustain.
Yeah, very good question. Actually, these days my interest has moved more towards real needs of human society. Uh, of course, the curiosity and research is important, but I am now more interested there. Yes, definitely. So technology has both sides, like this mobile. So the same like this mobile, it can be used for any purpose, right? You can use it for ask ChatGPT or find out some good research and do some good equation or do anything good thing, and also you can use it for wrong purposes. So any technology can be used for both purposes. That is why actually it would have been ideal that before we invent a technology, new technology, the training of mind is given. I mean, the human mind which is going to use the technology, but unfortunately, the misuse is more than the use. So that is why the problem is. So as far as climate thing is concerned, yes, it is rooted in mind change, and so it is actually roots are not technology, roots are our mindset. So that is why some kind of spiritual training, contemplative practices to orient our mind to use things for good. Means so technology you will not able to stop it now. It will grow more and more as the time progresses. But you can try to channelize it in a better way, good way, as far as possible. Completely, you'll not able to eliminate the wrong side of it also, because human mind has all these tendencies too. So that is why the need of spiritual or ancient training is comes in. Without that, actually, you have no way to handle human mind.
Yes. Thank you so much for that answer. So the next question is from Roshan. The question is, how is it that the same set of data can lead one scientist to infer purpose in the universe, while another concludes it is purposeless? What accounts for this difference?
Yeah, that's interesting. That also is a proof of free will you have. This is one thing, right? So the very fact that you can choose what you would like, your preference, your choices. So sometimes there's a question whether we have free will. Yes, you have free will. You can choose whether God exists or not, right? So that freedom is given. Similarly, the question which you are saying, that whether the purpose is there or not. So that is one part that you have free. Second is, data is there, but the interpretation of the data, that is very important. Actually, our founder, Dr. T.D. Singh, one time when he was doing conference in Rome, he had a session, detailed session on theistic interpretations of data, scientific data. So, like you can have scientific interpretation, you can have theistic interpretation also of the same data. So it depends on your outlook, on your worldview. So that freedom is there, we all of us have. Data is same, but how you interpret your choices, your preferences will definitely matter. So for example, in quantum mechanics, you have parallel interpretations, right? So same phenomena, but you have so many interpretations. So that choices are there.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. Then the next question is from Rajesh. He is asking, is it possible to incorporate the concept of mind into mainstream science? Can mathematics or quantum physics provide a framework for doing so?
Good thing. Yeah, just today morning or earlier I was reading this book, but today morning I was just again came to my mind, came to my hand. You see this book called Our Mathematical Universe. This is Tagmar. Tagmar is MIT physicist, very prominent. So in this one of the page he mentions is a diagram called mainstream, the how the boundaries of mainstream science keep on changing. This what we call mainstream today, or what was called 100 years ago. This keeps on changing. That is one part. That mainstreams, as per the need, keeps on changing. Second part is um, this bringing in mind. Actually, we did not want, I mean, scholars, scientists did not want it to bring in, but now we are forced to bring in, because one of the areas is mental health issues. Now, today you have prominent journals around the world on mental health. Today, in Nature itself, not only publishes scientific articles, they have a dedicated journal on mental health, especially in the youngsters. So already it is coming to the mainstream of science about that even though you don't understand mind in terms of the way we have been trying to try to reduce it to some combination of neurons, but today it seems whether we understand or not, you are not able to avoid the mind in the society, the idea of mind, which is not just the physical brain. So that is why mind is more and more, especially last 50 years, a tremendous research and work has come and is actually already entering in the mainstream of science. If you will be surprised, today neuroscience research includes more mind than the pure neurons work, because There are there are another area called this challenges in health. Like there are mental diseases which you cannot handle by medicine. So there again, mind comes into picture, and then there are so many now. Harvard University they collaborate with many meditational practitioners who are doing meditation to understand the workings of mind to develop this data on mental health on mind. So that is already a lot way further now.
Yes, thank you so much. So the next question is from Pradeep, Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan. He asks, Varunji, thank you so much for such a profound lecture. If consciousness, matter, and energy are distinct, by what mechanism do they interact? Conversely, if they are expression of a single essence, what special informational or geometric rules dictate how the absolute precipitates into the structured material world?
You please keep the question on the screen. Lot of points are
Yes.
there in this.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of interesting points are there. One is very clear as per our Vedic tradition. Matter and spirit are two distinct categories, fundamental categories of universe. Like you have time and space, right? Not time and space. I can say, give another example. Okay, leave it. The matter and spirit or consciousness are two distinct fundamental categories which exist all the time. So matter manifests for some time, that doesn't manifest but remain in unmanifested form, and consciousness remains all the time. That is number one. Number two, energy and matter, you already know they are interchangeable, equal to mc square. So that's not a problem. Number three, the consciousness interacting with the matter universe, it is a very big mystery. We don't know actually how it happens. For example, so you can refer to a lot of details are there, but we don't know how it happens. One of the thing which we are finding useful, which you may find useful, one of our research scholars is also working in that area, is that quantum information area. So that information, how it passes from consciousness to, because the things become very subtle and subtle, from matter to the mind to the intelligence to deeper into consciousness. So this could be helpful, that quantum information area, about how the information passes from consciousness to the matter. So that is what we don't know. That is for sure. And as far as Vedic things are concerned, you can go roots of you can read. I think yesterday was my colleague showed Vasudev Rao that about Bhagavatam, some of the references. So some of those things are given, that how they unfold from consciousness to the mind to the physical, then these all these panchabhutas, the physical structures, but not the kind of details which you will look for. For example, it will not give you the Schrodinger equation or uncertainty equation, but it will give you basic idea. So these are the things I can say about this question. But very good question, and it has a lot of deep insight.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question and thank you also for the answer. So, I mean, we have many questions, but again, due to time, I will just ask one last question. So, the question is from Devjit, DMC College, Kolkata. It's a short one. Could the universe itself possess a form of consciousness?
Universal. So the question depends on how, what do you mean by universe? So our general conception universe has been the physical structure which I would see there, that which I can touch, the earth I can touch, right? But universe is not just this, which you can touch. Universe also, like your body, you not only include this physical body which you can touch, there is also mind you have, which you make planning, thinking, right? Similarly, universe also is not just a physical structure which you can touch, which we study. There's also a mental aspect of that. So if you go in that aspect, then definitely then you go to further aspect, that universe actually is rooted in consciousness. So when I say universe physical, universe psychological, universe spiritual means at the root of universe is actually consciousness. But consciousness is different from universe also. That is very important. Means consciousness, as per our Vedic tradition, is purely distinct category than the physical matter or the subtle matter mind. So that much I can say. I think.
Thank you so much once again for this very amazing lecture. It was very clear. Everyone, I'm sure, understood it very nicely. And thank you so much for taking time out and presenting this to us.